In a couple of days, we will be celebrating International Women's Day. The theme of this year is Each for Equal. On this occasion, we have gathered a small, exclusive panel, and we will be talking about diversity, inclusion, and equality. A warm welcome to the three of you. Tarak Mehta, President of Electrification Business.
Thank you.
Simona de Silvestre, car race driver and our own ABB Formula E ambassador. And Andy Shang, Global Product Manager from Robotics Business. So, as mentioned, the theme of this year is Each for Equal. What does that mean to you? Tarak.
I mean, from my perspective, we have a very big employee base of 55,000. We want to ensure that everybody feels that they can make a positive contribution and everybody has a voice from an opportunity point of view, but also from a performance point of view. So we are very much looking forward to ensuring that all parts of our organization are well represented, and together we can make an even bigger impact than we can based on the past, where the representation wasn't necessarily equal and the contributions were not acknowledged as much as they should be. So our goal is now to bring out into the open a much better and a transparent process of having good representation across the entire employee base.
I think in nowadays, just getting the opportunity, a few female or men, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if you do the job properly, you should get the chance. And I think that's a really big change going on right now. Is getting the opportunity to everyone out there, and just everyone being able to prove that they can get it done. And I think that's it's great to be in this era right now.
Yes, so because I'm in the robotics business where there are very often more men than females, I think it's really important to bring the subject of diversity, and it's not just gender diversity, right? It's diverse teams, people from different cultures, to raise the awareness that diverse teams work better, work more efficiently, and we need to continue to talk about it, to be aware of it, and to encourage diversity in our teams, in our organizations.
Thank you. Tarak, you grew up in India. You have lived in many countries in the world. To mention some, you've lived in the US, you lived in Switzerland. And what has that done to you? How has that shaped your way of seeing things and also acting, maybe?
I mean, as I always tell a lot of my colleagues, you don't really experience a culture until you actually live there. So you can visit 20 times, but you don't get the same perspective as having been part of the society there. So having been a quote-unquote a global citizen over the many, many years, one thing I realized, or one thing we realized as a family even, is the perspectives. There are different perspectives on a similar situation or a similar circumstances. And that is what we need to take into the business as well. So every particular challenge, problem, opportunity has different ways to solve it. And because you have lived in different parts of the world, you get a different perspective. That there are other perspectives and not only one. So that's my, let's say, takeaway from a global business environment and living in different parts of the world.
Thank you. Andy, you also lived in many countries. So you lived also in the US, Sweden, China. What have you learned from that?
I think this is very interesting, and people often ask me this. So I will compare China and Sweden because those are the two countries I spent basically half my life in each. And I think in Sweden, people talk more about diversity, gender diversity, inclusion, and many companies have outspoken goals for this. Whereas in China, people don't talk about it as much. But when I go to my workplace, especially engineering companies, I would see more females in engineering departments, in R&D, also in management and sales in China. Whereas in Sweden, we keep talking about it, but in reality, it's not happening as much. And I often ask myself why. And I think one of the main reasons is really encouraging young females to study STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I feel that in Asia, in China, India, for example, there's less of a stigma that girls should not study science, engineering, technology. Whereas in Europe, a lot of my friends who have daughters, I ask them what they study, and they would never consider engineering. So I think this is something we really need to think about, to encourage, to work with girls when they're at a young age and really encourage them to take up STEM subjects. And here I think a company like ABB had a really big role to play.
And I think that's very interesting. And adding to that, we discussed a bit prior to starting here today, your team and how also an ad and a recruitment ad can make a difference. Maybe just a few words around how you have made a success in increasing the female percentage in your team.
Yes, so now I have a team where we are actually more females than male. And they're all very bright, very brilliant young women. And my male colleagues are a little jealous. They're like, where did you find all these brilliant women from? And I show them my job ad, or one of them, and they're like, wow, the way you write your job ad appeals to women. And it's because I think men tend to write a technical job, engineering job ad as, a list of requirements, 10 years experience in this, A, B, C, D, E, and females typically are more conservative. If we feel, I don't fulfill one of these, then I won't apply, right? But when I wrote the job ad, my approach was more describing the personality, the type of person, the type of team player I would like to have, and what the job should do, rather than writing these hard requirements.
And maybe over to you, Simona. You are in a profession today with very few women. How did you end up there? And tell us a bit about your journey. It's very exciting to understand more.
When I was really young, I always dreamt about being a race car driver, and it's definitely not the job that a lot of my girlfriends really were considering or anything like that. But I was always really passionate about car racing, and I just knew that I wanted to do this. But I think the big thing was as well that my parents really let me try anything, So I really had the support from my parents, if it was different sports and, going to the go-kart track every weekend and just giving me the opportunity to do what I really loved. And I never thought about it, because I'm a girl, I can't do it. I just was really passionate about it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do, and just pursued it. But definitely, I think there's a lot to do. I just thought racing was cool, and it didn't matter if I'm a girl. And I think, if you're at ABB, all the things they do, actually, like me being involved the last few years with ABB, there's so many cool things happening, like the robots and things like that. So it's just really cool to see. And if it's really more, I think, out there, and that there's even more, potential to even have more people.
And on that note, Andy, in terms of ABB and the journey that we are on and have been on and will continue to be on in terms of diversity and inclusion, how far do you think we are today?
Just the fact that we're here talking about it, I think is already a very good step, but I definitely think that we can do more. So what I think we could do is this should be clearly communicated in the core value of the company. And we should talk about it and keep talking about it, train all the new employees on this so that, our core values are inclusion, diversity, and of course, culture.
When you just look at the numbers, it's obvious that we have a long way to go. Because if you look at the representation of women, but not only women, but also the different ethnic nationalities, that we still have a long way to go as a company. And if we set ourselves a target, that gives the wrong perspective. I think what we have to set ourselves is a way of working, a way of living. It's the way of including different perspectives in the decision making. It's a way of making sure that we add the right competence, but also the right diversity, not only at the starting levels of the organization. What we see from a management perspective is we have good representation in the beginning career, but we lose more and more women, example, as the career progression happens. So we need to make sure that we are not only recruiting, but also developing, supporting.
And in your field, Simona, how far do you feel you're in this journey?
There's definitely not many women. If I look around, most of the teams I'm in, usually I'm the only one. Maybe in the PR and the marketing, there's one or two there, but definitely we're not that many. And I think the big thing is in engineering, there's a few here and there, but definitely I think there's just about getting these opportunities. I think there's a lot of really clever women like in school and all that. But then for example, a race team needs to actually also make them come and showcase what they can do and give that. And I think in racing, unfortunately, it's still pretty male dominated, that, there's a lot of ego sometimes that plays a role in it. But I think, like me personally, I feel like really responsible in being able to show, okay, it's not an easy way, but, just, keep working at it, and then one day the opportunity comes, and I think that's what's important. But definitely, I think there's still a long way to go.
Sometimes this topic can be a bit, let's say, sensitive, and you can get some reactions, and people might find it sensitive. Have you ever encountered some resistance to it? And if yes, how did you act and react to that?
I think we're not talking about resistance, we're talking about bias, typically. And most of the biases are unconscious. They're not necessarily conscious. So as a company, we have values which ensure that we do not have an outwards reaction that is not positive. However, you have biases in life. And it's the unconscious bias that we need to work on. So by bringing these topics up to the front, by recognizing that we do not have enough women, for example, in the workforce, we are confronting the unconscious biases that we have, both in selection, promotion, but also in terms of giving the opportunities. And inclusion and diversity is of thought, not of race, not of gender. So I want to make sure that in an environment where we're talking about inclusion and diversity, it is not only gender, it's not only race, it's really thoughts. It's really focused on different ways of solving the problem.
I think that's proven that diverse teams work more effectively. It's just that human nature is that you want to be with people that are similar to you. But that's why I think people need to see examples, or to experience examples, actually. So last year I was in this program at ABB, which is middle-level management program, where we brought in a diverse team from different countries, different parts of the organization to work together. And I think that was really an eye-opener for everyone, that this diversity, how we could work so effectively, because we had certain tasks and we were able to achieve them, overachieve them, because of the diversity, because of the different ideas. And I think everyone needs to live this and experience how diverse teams can be more productive and more effective.
Simona, what kind of message would you send to girls or women who would like to pursue a career in a non-traditional field?
I think as women, sometimes we're a bit afraid to, not push the boundaries, and if something gets a bit difficult, not to really go for it. And I think to really kind of believe in yourself. And the road usually sometimes is not that easy, but I think the big thing is try to find the support around you as well. I've always mentioned that that's what I wanted to do with people around me, and then I found out that people would actually help me in my career. And I think that's important. Not just think, everyone is against you, and just try to go for it. And I think as women as well, I think it's changing quite a bit. I think before, a lot of women were jealous a bit. Like even myself, when there was another girl racing, I'd be a bit more competitive because we're not that many. But I think it's really important that we kind of all go together and work together. But don't believe in yourself. That's the biggest thing, and just keep pushing yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So we're living in year 2020, and we are celebrating International Women's Day. Mm-hmm. How come this is it still relevant and necessary in the world of work?
I would say it's necessary because we haven't given, from a success perspective, from a fact-based point of view, both as companies but also as individuals, we have an opportunity to get better. And therefore, a recognition specifically focused on women is, in my view, absolutely the right thing. In 2020. Do we need it in the future? Hopefully not. And the reason I say hopefully not is because we need to measure based on results and not based on intentions. So as a matter of fact, the diversity needs to be a fact before it becomes something that we don't need to focus on.
So I think we definitely need to continue having International Women's Day and to use this as an occasion to lift the awareness or to do something extra, like this talk that we're making here, and to put it fresh into people's minds again that, oh, yes, this is something we need to continue to focus on, continue to fight for.
I think it's important to be here, and I think in our days, we kind of get in our routines and stuff like that, and things like that, and when there's success stories and things, that to really talk about it, that it's out there, and keep pushing those boundaries.
Good. And that brings us to the future, hopefully completely bias-free and completely equal in everything. But to really sum up, I would like to ask you to complete the following sentence. I believe that in 5 years, diversity and inclusion is.
I believe in 5 years, diversity and inclusion is not something that we talk about every day, because we have achieved enough, we have made enough progress. People feel, and not only feel, but are equally represented from a thought point of view, from a gender perspective, but from a race perspective.
I think in 5 years, just, you know, for example, if I'm my engineering team who make my car go fast, whoever comes in, that the best one really gets the position to do it, and not having to think about this.
I would say in 5 years, diversity and inclusion will be part of the core value at ABB, and that ABB will be a more attractive workplace for people from diverse backgrounds and both genders.
Thank you very much. And that sums it up from us. And I think the future looks very bright ahead of us now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now over to you to continue the conversation. What does each for equal mean to you?